Welcome to the Adoption Lounge. I'm Amanda.
And I'm Katie. And we are going to talk more about Teen Mom today.
The hot gossips.
The hot goss. I once again had to
She still knows nothing.
educate myself about this story because I just don't follow it. I'm sorry. I know I'm the only one, but...
So a lot of you probably know, unlike Katie, that Tyler and Catelynn placed their child for adoption when they were 16 years old to a couple, Brandon and Teresa. And there's been some drama a while ago about them not following through with the open adoption. Well, now...
Everything I know about it, I learned from our previous podcasts.
Yeah, so please watch that. But now Carly, the adoptee, came out with a song for Tyler and Catelynn and wanted her parents, Brandon and Teresa, to pass it along. And instead of passing it along directly to them, they went to Dr. Drew, who hosts Teen Mom, and wanted Dr. Drew to put it on national TV. And Tyler and Catelynn didn't want to listen to it in front of the entire world. They wanted, not that they wouldn't have let it air eventually, but they wanted to listen to it behind, like in private, because they didn't know what it was and how they would react. It's emotional. And Brandon and Teresa denied that request. So that has been what the drama is right now.
The drums, got it.
Because if you remember from before, Brandon and Teresa had claimed that one of the reasons they had kind of pulled back from the open adoption was because they didn't want Carly on TV. They, kind of wanted her to be able to live kind of a normal private life.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, it's confusing to then say, here's this song, you have to listen to it on national TV.
Yeah. No, I mean, you want my immediate reaction. She did tell me about this briefly. I think it's bananas. I think it's wild I realized that this all originated the way that it did on TV, but I think that when it did originate, in all fairness, I don't think anyone understood what a huge phenomenon that everyone but me was aware of. And so I do think it's a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Not closed-minded, but reductive.
Yeah.
To just say that, well, it started out on TV, so it makes sense. Like, this is just what everybody signed up for. Because I just don't think anybody knew. And at the time, it was really nice to bring awareness to something in a positive way.
Well, and even if you did decide, okay, we agreed to do this TV show and air our adoption, because they both agreed to it. They were both on the show.
Exactly.
So then to say later on, hey, this has gotten so big, now Carly's a teenager with the way that the internet is, we just rather try to let her live somewhat of a normal life. Yeah. It doesn't mean you don't have to follow through with the open adoption. Just say you don't want it aired.
Yeah, totally. So, and I have no idea if they have any contractual obligations with MTV.
Yeah.
Obviously not privy to that information. Right. I mean, I think, for example, with the Duggars, there was a lot of information that came out later about their own contractual obligations, even with the kids involved. So, I mean, I would be kind of interested to know that, I guess. But it just seems completely wild to be like, we're protecting her, we're shielding her, but we're only going to allow you to hear this thing from her in a public forum that MTV has the ability to now monetize. Like, who
well, really kind of, a lot of people had questions about, like, maybe Brandon and Teresa wanted to monetize. They were hoping that they would have been getting more out of the situation, since, and so this kind of feeds into some of those questions that families have is,
right.
So you're okay with Carly being in, because they also did that photo shoot with People magazine.
Yeah. So how much of this is like performative for sympathy because you're like, oh, we're just protecting our child, but then you're still
monetizing off of it when it's right for you. So we actually have Tyler's response. So Tyler then, because
I've never read this. They just made me pull it up on my phone.
Yep. So she's going to read Tyler's response, which is kind of a letter almost to Brandon and Teresa, and it's very interesting. So take it away, Katie.
All new information. Dear Teresa and Brandon, thank you for reaching out with a message. We very much appreciate that you took the time to do that for us. As far as Carly's song, it is such a beautiful gift and so meaningful. We just asked if we could listen to it in private first because it brings a lot of emotions and sadness. For us, it's so beautiful to listen to her, but it also brings up a lot of feelings. So we were just asking to listen to it privately first and process the inevitably intense feelings that come from it. But you need to understand that this also creates a lot of confusion for us because you get upset that we speak about our adoption story publicly, but simultaneously want us to share a very personal song regarding our adoption story nationally on television for the whole world, which we will inevitably have to talk about publicly. It's confusing because you don't want us to have the song ourselves, even though that's what Carly wants, and yet you want the whole world to have it and are using TV to do so, even though you've claimed many times that you do not want to be part of TV. So I hope you understand how that makes us feel stuck, confused, controlled, and manipulated, regardless if that was your intent or not. We are incredibly sorry that if anything we have said about our truth as birth parents has hurt you or Carly or negatively impacted your life. That was never our intention. As far as speaking about adoption as a whole, we will always speak about adoption, share the facts, share adoptees' great stories and adoptees' bad stories. So we will always speak about adoption. We just won't speak about our own adoption journey moving forward. However, we believe that our advocacy for adoptees and adoptive education should not have any impact on our reconciliation efforts unless you choose to make it that way. That at the end of the day, this reconciliation effort isn't for you or for us, it's for Carly and what she needs and wants. So we cannot allow any of our own personal pain and insecurities to get in the way of that. We're the adults here, and it's our job to put everything aside for the best interest of Carly, which requires open, honest, and transparent communication. So we hope moving forward you will participate in that requirement. Love, Catelynn and Tyler. I would like to say that reading that for the first time, I thought I nailed it for the most part. I know
You
that's
did.
not the point
It
of
was
this.
beautifully written and
But I
beautifully
want you to
read.
know, we went from the smallest font I have ever seen on the last page, the only page I screwed up, to the largest font. It's no notice. But I thought that was really well written. I mean, I feel like I tried to be, and I think this comes from being an adopted kid too. I tend to want to defend my parents. So when we talked about it the first time, I think my inclination was to react in a way that I feel my own parents would react. So it makes sense to me that they'd want to protect her because my mom is the most protective person in the whole world.
Course.
She is the sweetest, most sensitive person on the planet. But I mean, when it comes to her kids, man, she's terrifying. So
I think that's like most moms, right? It's like a whole nother person.
So like my inclination, if I don't have more info and I am being asked to source an opinion, you know, like I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But honestly, at this point, I think I'm switching sides.
I kind of always have been Tyler and Catelynn because I've gotten to see how mature, especially as 16-year-olds, that they've been, how much they loved Carly, how much they really did, even though everyone in their life wanted them to parent, how they wanted better for Carly. So I feel like they've always...
And my argument's never against the birth parents either. I think I might have felt differently if I had watched it from the beginning and actually gotten to know all these people. So this is just purely from an outside, this is what I know about a situation. But I think it's interesting too, because you are such a wonderful advocate for adoptive parents that I love that they touched your heart so much that you were really always team Catelynn and Tyler, for lack of a better way of saying it. I mean, I don't think there should be sides in an adoption, but like, because you know what I'm saying.
Like, I'm like you, I do understand as a mom where Brandon and Teresa would say, hey, this is really blown up, and with how mean people are, I would never want that for my child. So I understand wanting to kind of retract a little bit. But what I feel like is that if it was truly for the betterment of Carly's life, then you wouldn't be cutting out her bio parents.
And I know everyone agreed to this. So like, this isn't a judgment, but I'm trying to imagine a world where I was like, I wrote a meaningful song for my birth mom. Would you go on Dr. Drew and release it publicly? I would literally die.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also where it's kind of sad, and Tyler...
Like, do we have any permission for this? Is that...
Well, that's the thing.
I cannot imagine that this child was like, this is what I prefer.
That's what Tyler touched on, is that Carly said, hey, I want my parent, or my biological parents to have this.
Yeah.
And then for Brandon and Teresa to kind of be standing on the hill of, I don't want Carly in the public eye.
Yeah.
I want it off TV. Then to go to Dr. Drew and say, you can only listen to this if you listen to it in front of millions of people.
Well, and even as an audience member, people can choose to live their life in the public eye, and I completely understand that. But believe it or not, that does not entitle you for every single piece of information about them. So I feel like the level of entitlement as the audience, I mean, I don't even know if as a whole, everyone would side with them. I don't think the whole world would be like, we deserve to hear this song. So, like, I think it's understandable if you don't include us. I would hope that other fans of the show would even feel the same way. So I thought
It seems like a
what
very
he
private
said,
moment
yes,
to be aired in a raw version.
exactly.
Where, and I think it's kind of a little bit insensitive to...
And
to,
people will pick it apart. Once you put it out there, you have everyone's opinions
well,
about
it's
it.
a little insensitive too, because obviously this is such an emotional thing. And if everyone is truly in this for the betterment of Carly, I think this might have been a misjudgment on Brandon and Teresa's part. We're human. We're not perfect. I'm not judging them for it. I just think that I agree with Tyler and Catelynn for wanting to listen to it.
I'm judging them for it. Unless you're contractually obligated, going on Dr. Drew to release a song your teenage daughter wrote to her birth parents is insane.
Yeah. No, it's wild. For sure.
I just don't even know what to say about, I can't even imagine. So, forgive me, I don't know all the details of this. Did they actually go on the show and they kind of explained to Dr. Drew that they had this?
They never showed Brandon and Teresa. It was just a sit down, like a Zoom with Tyler and Catelynn on one side and Dr. Drew on the other side, where Dr. Drew was explaining that they didn't even know why they were going. I don't even think they even knew why they were meeting with Dr. Drew, and it was going to be aired.
That's wild. I mean, I guess at that point you probably assume it has something to do with the adoption. But if they weren't told, that's incredibly irresponsible, because that's trauma, and that's springing trauma on a family that's not prepared for it. So that's
that's kind of what it is with the song too, like not knowing what is in the song and how maybe you don't want the world to see you in such. That's a really personal.
Yeah, we're gonna play this for everyone. Can you stay on Zoom so we can capture your real-time reactions? I just feel like you don't owe us anything, and to be put in that position, I would be...
If you choose to share it later
upset
on, after you've had that private moment where you've gotten to experience it as a family, listen to it, and you decide, and you talk to Carly, and you decide, hey, we would love to... It's so beautifully written. It may even help other adoptees, too. Yeah. They could relate to how you feel in the song. And you guys decide to release it, that's fine.
Yeah. But like I said, being a public advocate, I just don't think that means that every single aspect of your life then has to be shared. And I think that especially when there is a minor involved, that this is just ridiculous. And I
said that on the last show. I said, what does Carly want? I understand what Brandon and Teresa want. I understand what Tyler and Catelynn want. But what does Carly want in this situation? Because I feel like she's kind of this unheard voice. If she wants to have a relationship with her parents and wants them to talk about her adoption journey, then let it happen. She is a teenager, but she's also...
and I tell adoptive families that too. I'm kind of I'm an advocate for open adoption, and I think that it has to be healthy though, and you have to set boundaries and all of that.
Sure.
But at the same time, you can participate in visits and normalize the adoption and be transparent about it. And then as your child gets older, they will most likely have an opinion, and then it is your decision as a family.
Then let it be child-led.
Exactly. And so I feel like we're at that point, and they need to, we're not talking about the deregulation you see sometimes in really complicated, custody cases or foster care cases.
Right.
That's just a totally different topic. This is an agreed upon open adoption.
Well, Carly's the same age that Tyler and Catelynn were when they were obviously adult enough to place their child for adoption.
That makes me feel emotional.
So why can't Carly make a decision on letting her parents listen to a song, or whether or not she wants to continue an open adoption with, why can't that be her decision at 16?
Yeah.
If you're able to make this other life altering,
Yeah, that's a really good point. I remember when I turned the age that my birth mom was when she had me, and it was just such a weird place to be in.
I bet. To think about where you are versus where she was too, making this decision, knowing
and how
you're
terrifying that would be. Yeah.
Yeah. But I do also want to talk about how this is not in any way. This is an adoption journey that was obviously very public. So there's different aspects to think about. This is not the normal adoption journey when it comes to an open adoption.
I think it's done some really wonderful things. I talk to a lot of families who are I am more open to open adoption because of Catelynn and Tyler sharing their story, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Lately, because I think of everything kind of that's gone down, I've had people more insecure about it. And that honestly makes me sad. And I'm not talking about expectant moms, I'm talking about adoptive families.
Yeah.
I think honestly, more as an expectant mom, I would be a little bit trepidatious about it. But you also don't want to let one story scare you into not pursuing something that,
Well, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So
Yeah.
we don't want this to be the only thing that people think of when they think of open adoption, because although this is a journey, it's not the only journey. And I think
Yeah.
that's something that's really beautiful about open adoption, or even semi-open adoption or closed adoption. It can look however everyone wants it to look. It's not a cookie cutter thing.
Absolutely. I always say it's so fluid. You have to see how it goes. But I do think establishing an open situation and then pulling back, but then still going in the public eye in that way, that's just a little bit strange to me. I do like when all the adults handle it. So I think that it's interesting, because even if they were, I was wondering this too, if they were told in advance what it was about, I mean, I don't think it's the same thing. I don't blame them for going on Dr. Drew, Catelynn and Tyler, because at the end of the day, if that's the only way they have to have a open communication with.
I don't even think they've been able to hear the song yet, because they went back to Brandon and Teresa and asked if it was okay if Catelynn and Tyler could have the song and listen to it in private, and they said no. So I think that's when he came out with that, because there's no other way for him to talk to Brandon and Teresa. They have them blocked. So this was kind of the only way that they could hopefully get to say what they wanted to say.
Thumbs down, guys.
Yeah, it's
dislike.
It is sad. It's sad, and I think that Tyler and Kate, I like what Tyler said when he's like, it is confusing for us, because
I mean, they were children when they made this decision, and they obviously, were wise beyond their years and made this beautiful choice. And I mean, if they're looking at their daughter thinking we should advocate for her, like, think about these other children, that had to advocate for themselves.
Yeah. Well, and I think about
and went in good faith to this with you.
I just don't understand why it has to be so black and white, because even if you were trying to really advocate for Carly and protect her, I don't know why you wouldn't, obviously not knowing contractually, what they have to do, but if they told Catelynn and Tyler, hey, we can continue with the open adoption, but I don't want it talked about, we don't want Carly on television, They would 100% go, they said that before, they would have 100% been okay with that.
Well, and you don't know how much of that is performative for any individual person, but I don't know, man. I feel like it's not all adding up.
No, but I'm interested in seeing how it plays out, because Carly is very, very close to being an adult, and if she then wanted to have a conversation with Catelynn and Tyler, so I think we'll be able to see kind of how I'm very invested now in how it turns out, and hopefully at the end of the day, whatever Carly wants is what will eventually be, because that's the most important person in this. Like Tyler said, we're all adults. What matters in this is us coming together and doing what's right for Carly.
I liked what he said too about acknowledging that there are positive stories. There are people that might feel negatively. There might be situations where not all the people involved feel positively, but some do. I mean, there's just everyone's allowed to feel their feelings. There's no wrong or
no right or wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there kind of is in some situations. Not follow through on what you're going to say you do, but
there's
in
right
general,
or
there's no right or wrong way to feel about it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a tricky one though. But yeah, so I don't know.
We'll see.
I'm shifting.
We would love to hear your guys' thoughts too. With all of this, if anybody has any questions or thoughts or opinions, we'd love to hear what you guys
Are you more
think.
nervous about open adoption? How do you feel about all of this, the public forum of it?
Or if you just want to be fun, just tell us, are you team Tyler and Catelynn or team Brandon and Teresa? We'd just love to hear from you guys.
Everyone needs to be team Carly. Yes,
We're all
I
team
agree.
Carly.
I agree with you. Where are we leaning?
Yeah, we'd love to hear.
All right, well, hopefully there'll be more to talk about in the future, because this one's kind of a fun.
It's ever evolving, and we are here for it. Thank you guys so much for
hanging out with us.